Hi, everybody. Welcome to this live. I am doing a live on YouTube and I'm doing a live on TikTok. I know that you guys were waiting for me to come live yesterday because I told you that I was going to do. I was going to be talking about Mental Health Awareness Month. We'll be talking about my story, and because of the panel that I did with Scotty by Nature. Oh, Naughty by Nature. Here I go. Scotty by Nature TV. I decided that I needed to sit down and to really think about what I want to talk about in this conversation. So welcome to all of you that's coming on TikTok, and welcome to those who are coming on YouTube. Welcome to this live. This is going to be a deep conversation. You guys, make sure that you guys are following me on TikTok, Chocolate Beauty 81. The same thing with my YouTube. I really hate the fact that my YouTube always freeze, but I cut my finger before I went live, so I have a Band-Aid on one of my fingers. But anyway, it was very important to me that I came with an important conversation. I didn't want to repeat myself and what I said on the panel when I spoke about whatever issues that I had going on growing up. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of what my story was and my journey on seeking help for mental health. Hi, Elizabeth Jones. How are you? Welcome to this live. Welcome to all of you that is in here. Then I'm going to tell you, we're going to talk about acceptance and what acceptance looks like, and also the different stages of grief, because a lot of my, actually all of my issues dealt with the trauma of grief, of losing my dad. And at a very young age, it really impacted me all the way up into my adulthood. I had to seek help. Welcome. You guys, make sure that you guys are making friends in this room. Also, make sure that you guys are subscribing. Hi, Hebrew Queen. Okay, Elizabeth. Okay, Hebrew Queen. Yes. You guys, please make sure that you guys subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're not subscribed, and also go to my TikTok and my Instagram. It's all the same name, Chocolate Beauty 81. So to give you a brief story about what happened to me as a child and how I came to the conclusion that I needed help, and I needed to seek therapy for depression and anxiety. So growing up, I was born in Jamaica, and I migrated to the United States. Now, a lot of you already know the story that I was born in Jamaica, raised in the United States. So before I left Jamaica, my father was killed tragically in a car accident, and it left me wounded because I was really close to my dad. My dad was my world, and the way that he passed away was so traumatic. He died in a freak car accident, and the way he died was so traumatic. If you want to know about that, please watch Scotty by Nature TV. I don't really want to go over it again. But because I had lost my dad at a young age, and I was so close to him because my dad was my world, it kind of, it was very traumatizing. And, you got to understand that my dad died. Well, for those of you who don't know, he died from burning, electrocution, and smoke inhalation. It was a really bad death, and they had to open casket when I was a child. I was only 4 years old, and not really thinking much of it at the time about what exactly the implications or the impact of what that was going to look like, or really nobody really understanding how traumatic that is to a 4-year-old child. Seeing an open casket of their father that's a burnt victim and an electrocuted victim as well. It was very traumatic, and nobody really paid attention to the kids. Nobody really pays attention in Jamaica. It is not a place where they offer therapy. Most Black families don't believe in therapy, but Jamaicans, they just have a different way of going about things. So I was hurting really bad because the last image I had of my dad was not my father. Okay, he was burnt. He was a tall man. It was just like he shrunk. He was over 6 feet. And even though I never really talk about it, I do remember what my father looked like in the casket. A lot of the things that I think I know that the therapist told me at because of the last image I had of my dad, it kind of put me in a bad space mentally to where it made me forget a lot of things when I was young. But I still remember what my dad looked like in that casket. It's something that's very hard for me to talk about. It's just something that was just so I don't even know. Like, I just think that you should never have an open casket when somebody is a burnt victim. But, then again, we were in a different country in a different time. This was in the 80s. Nobody was paying attention to me, though. I was a rambunctious child. I was a tomboy. I ran over the place. I was like, I was like one of those kids who was very active. I climbed trees. I played with the boys, was really talkative as a child. And after I lost my father, I stopped talking. I literally stopped communicating with the world. It's like I went on the inside myself and just got lost. And we were in Jamaica at the time. Nobody really could identify what was going on with the child because they're paying attention and focusing on the adults. And even when you do have a death, you do know that people are not going to always stay around. There's going to come a time where everybody goes and leaves. You're going to be the one that's going to be left with your emotions. Your family is going to have to deal with whatever comes with the aftermath of losing a loved one. So, the support isn't always there. But my mom, she really didn't have time to really think. She was, 27 years old with 2 children and now a widower in another country. And at the time, my grandmother had filed papers for us to go to live in the United States. But the way that Jamaica works is if something happens, if there's a death or if there's a death or something happens to the person that they're filing for, regardless, if my mom was married to my dad, the immigration process started all over again. So we were stuck. I mean, I'm not going to say stuck, but we ended up staying in Jamaica another 2 years because my dad's mom was the one that was filing for us to come to the United States to live. So now it started all over again. So now my mom is in Jamaica with all her family in the United States. She had to figure a way to get, to take care of her kids and also get through the loss of losing her husband. But all the meantime, I'm struggling. I mean, I was struggling really bad. It was crazy. It was crazy because it was like, nobody was paying attention to the sign. And this is why it's so important. If you ever have a child that loses a parent, I suggest that you pay close attention to your children. I understand that you may be having a hard time with the loss, but you need to you need to pay attention to your kids because not all children are resilient when it comes to death. Not all children are resilient and able to get past it. Not all of them. Most children are resilient, but not all children are resilient when it comes to that type of stuff. So you need to pay attention. Unfortunately for me, I lived in a country that didn't offer the help that I needed. I stopped communicating in the world. And I started cutting school when I was young. I was 4 years old. Jamaica, we go to school that young. So my mom, people were asking me, like, how did you cut school? So, yeah, I was a toddler cutting school. So the way that the 2 schools are in Spanish Town, there's 2 schools next to each other, but there is like an open space in between the schools. So there's like a big lot that was in between the schools. So what I would do is my mom worked at the school at the school next door. But what I would do is there was a crawl space in between the gate that I actually dug up myself. So whenever they would drop me off at school, and I was smart enough to dig a crawl space and then put the bushes back whenever I, left out of the school. So I will open the bushes, crawl in the under space, and just go about my business. And this is a 4-year-old child. I was a 4-year-old child cutting school. I was a 4-year-old child not talking. I was a 4-year-old child angry. I was a 4-year-old child not really everybody's like looking at me like, oh, she just lost her dad. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. No, not when you're a resilient child. Not when you're a resilient child. It's not okay. It's not okay to be a child that goes from active and being rambunctious and just outgoing to somebody who stopped talking, cutting school, and doing all types of stuff. Like, when I lost my dad, it's just like my world stopped. And because wasn't any adults recognizing that there was something wrong with this child, I suffered for many years. And the sad thing about it is I left Jamaica not talking. I came to the United States and it got even worse because, number one, I'm separated from my dad. I already have separation anxiety because of my dad. I'm having a hard time because I'm not really communicating like that. Then I was separated from my country. And I'm coming into a new culture where it's like a whole nother concept. There's a whole nother concept. I'm not accepting calls right now. I'm not accepting any calls right now. I'm sorry, you guys. I just have to turn this off. Okay. I just seen somebody just try to call me on TikTok. But I was like one of those kids who was suffering I was suffering in silence in front of a whole bunch of people, and nobody took the time out to say, hey, like, there's something going on with this child. There's something going on with this kid. Like, she's not talking. So I come to the United States. I'm not talking, social anxiety, separation anxiety from not only my dad, but my country and the people. My family is just like moving on. It's kind of like my mom didn't really have time to really think about what was going on with me, which was not good. My mom didn't recognize the issues with me until I yeah, my mom didn't recognize the issues with me until I got to the age of 16. Then she was like, oh my God, like, I think that my child needs help. And it's just like, you're 12 years past that time. You're 12 years past the time of having a conversation with me. Now you've raised me all my life to reject help from people. So now I'm in a space where I'm rejecting therapy. I'm 16 years old. I'm rejecting therapy. I give it to, I will say that my childhood best friend and my ex really were responsible for getting me out of that isolation of not talking to people because they were always around me. But I had a lot of anxiety. It wasn't until I became an adult that I was just like I was angry at the world. And I'm just like, you know what? The world does not deserve this type of anger, nobody really deserves me being mad at them and taking it out on them. Like, what I got going on has nothing to do with them and everything to do with me. So I went to get help, and there was a lot of things that I didn't realize stemmed back from my childhood. All of it stemmed from my childhood. Oh yes, I'm reading the comments on my TikTok. I'm sorry, you guys. But a lot of things that happened to me was because I didn't get help. Having the memory of losing my dad, him dying tragically because he didn't have his death wasn't merciful at all. And I was supposed to be with him. So there was also like a bit of survival's guilt, and at the time, as a child, I didn't know what it was called. I had no idea. But I think it's very important that people take out the time to really pay attention to your kids. Whenever your kid loses a parent, please seek a grief counselor and seek one that specializes with with children, because they do have that. It would have made my life a world of difference if I would have gotten the help that I need. Because I wasn't communicating with the world There was a lot of labels put on me: learning disability, disabled, this, that. Was told that I was never going to amount to anything. Was told that, my mom, she finally went to seek help for my learning, because when you're not communicating with the world, you're not going to learn. You're not going to learn how to read. You're not going to learn how to, you're not going to learn the basic things. And I'll never forget it. I was 9 years old, 9 or 10 years old. My mom took me to my principal to say, because I kept failing in the first grade. I was like 9 years old in the first grade. And my mom was like, there's something, she needs extra help. That principal pulled up my records and told my mother to put me in a special school, and that there was no hope for me. Yes, me, Chocolate Beauty, 81, the conversationalist. Me, yes. Because I man, I tell you, don't ever live by the words of other people. But man, I remember I was 9 and I was so angry. I'm like, yo, you're not going to tell me that I will never amount to anything. You crazy? So my mom, she came out the room. My mom was walking down the hallway, and it wasn't even like a normal cry. My mom was weeping. My mom is an educator, so it was very difficult for her to understand why I was having the difficulties that I was having. But it was all due to the fact that, from when I was a child, I didn't get the counseling and the help that I needed. So my mom was walking down the hallway crying, weeping. And I looked at her and said, listen, mommy, I don't care how long it takes. I don't care how hard it's going to be. I'm going to learn to read. I'm going to learn to write. And I'm going to learn to do all those things. I'm going to do whatever it takes to learn. And that was the first time in my life that I dug deep, and I did just that. My mom put me in special education in the 5th grade. By the middle of the 6th grade, I was out of special education. I want you to understand that this is where resilience come in as a child. When a child is not resilient in one place, they may be resilient in another. Okay, so that's what you need to pay attention to as well. So when I went into special education in the 5th grade, I was on the kindergarten reading level. By the time I got to in the 6th grade, and by the time I got to the 7th, I was on the 10th grade reading level. Why? Because somebody told me, and I felt it in my spirit. I don't even know why why it bothered me so much. Okay, it bothered me so much that this man was telling my mom, you call it a night, your child will never amount to nothing. I was like, I don't think so. I don't know who you think you're talking to. You're not talking to me. Clearly, you're talking to my imaginary friend. That's how the way that I was just like, I know that he's not talking about me. Like, I understand that I got problems, but you're telling me that I'm never going to amount to anything. So anyway, I dug in my bootstraps, and, I am dyslexic. So there's certain things that come up that I read backwards. That's why they be reading me to filth or TikTok, because I be seeing people's names and I'm just like, but I really had to work hard for everything that I have. Down to all of my platforms, I had to really work hard at it. I went and I remember I went to college, and I was having a hard time in school, and all of those words came back to haunt me. See, this is why it's so important that you heal yourself from whatever wounds that you got. Okay, you need to make sure that you work on it, because when things go bad and things don't go your way, those voices of doubt, those memories come back of people telling you that you're never going to amount to anything, you're never going to be anything, you're never going to do anything, and then you start believing them as adult. It's like, why is it as a child that nobody could tell me nothing? But when I became an adult, all those fears, all of those doubts and all of that rejection just came. It was like, I don't know. It was just weird. So I went and I took an exam. I went to the learning disability They have, all schools have a learning disability section to the school where you get extra help, you get extra time to do your exams, you get extra time to do your work. So I went there and they were asking me for my testing from school. I couldn't pull my records. I started school in the 80s. And this was back in the, in the 2000s. So like in the 80s, they don't have the records. Like, it was just a nightmare trying to get those things. So they're like, okay, we're going to give you an exam. I took the exam and I went and got my results. They're like, okay, so it's quite clear that we can see that you've missed basic stuff. Like we can see that you struggle a little bit with adjectives, pronouns, and even a little bit with verbs. But you understand, like, how she said, no, adjectives and pronouns. Just like, but your mind is on a scholarly level. Your understanding of literature is on a scholarly level. Oh my God, my phone is dying. No. No! You guys hold on, wait a second. I'll be right back. My phone is dying. I thought it was at 100%. You guys, I'll be right back. Is this charging? All right, you guys. The sound is about to be trash. The sound is about to be trash on my YouTube. I'm sorry. Let me close this door. Oh God. Technical difficulties. I'm sorry. So I found out that not only did I, after years of fighting when I became an adult, that not only do I have the mind of a scholar, I have the understanding of a scholar. And that's why I seek knowledge like the way I do. A lot of people, they look at me and they're like, oh, you always know the information about things. Why is that? I don't know what to tell you. It's a part of how the way that my brain processes things. I need to know these things. I need to be able to explain. And you know what's crazy about my story and about my journey to mental health awareness is that the thing that I struggled with the most, the thing that caused me the most grief, was me not communicating. And my voice is the most powerful tool that I have. Isn't it funny how that works? That your weakest areas, the thing that you struggle with the most, is going to be the thing that helps people. It's designed to help people. So anyway, when I went and I got help, it was very hard. I'm going to talk about acceptance and what that looks like. I want to talk about three things with acceptance. When it comes to your mental health, when it comes to your self-awareness, when you come to the realization that you need help and that you cannot do this process alone and that you have to seek out therapy. The first step is when I came to the realization that I needed help and that I needed therapy. It was one of the hardest things I've ever experienced because I felt like I failed. I felt like if I couldn't do this on my own, if I couldn't find my own way in my own direction, I've proven people right. So it was a very long time before I actually picked up my picked up my feet and start walking towards the direction of therapy. But that place of acceptance, man, listen, it was very, very hard. I beat myself up. I was horrible to myself during that time. Because it's like there's a certain belief systems, right? Belief systems that you don't need help. If you're coming from a black family, and on top of that, I'm an immigrant from Jamaica. So it's not like, I have the most understanding family when it comes to come to this thing we call mental health. Like they don't really. I mean, they've gotten better throughout the years, but at the time, I was on my own. So when it came to acceptance, it was just horrible to myself, man. I mean, we could be our worst enemies when it comes to this thing we call stopping and saying, hey, I can't do this on my own. I beat myself up so bad during that time. Please make sure that when you come to the place of acceptance that you are not mean to yourself. You already have the world, you already have your issues, you already have these battles that you're going to be fighting. You don't need to be fighting yourself in the middle of trying to seek help or coming to the awareness that you need help. Learn to be kind to yourself. Start using words of affirmation. That was something that one of the YouTubers said on the panel that I was on, and it was just like, it's so true. It's words are powerful. You need to start speaking affirmations of things of the opposite of the way that you feel. You feel that you're worthless. You think you say, listen, I am the best thing next to sliced bread, and nobody can do it without me. Even if it's just a little bit, maybe you may not feel like that. Start speaking it. There's power in the tongue. And I had to really fight against myself with acceptance. It was one of the most confusing, most difficult things I've ever been through. It was just like I was fighting a war in my head. I was fighting a war of people accepting the fact that I need help, my family, and then I was raised in the church. I was raised in a church where it was prayer fixed things, and prayer is the answer. And I'm not saying that it's not. But if God created people to find things for diabetes, high blood pressure, lung problems, lung disease, different types of blood diseases, why wouldn't he create people to find things to help you deal with the mind? You guys need to be open to getting help if you are a deeply religious person. You don't always have to seek medication. There is a lot of options for you. And there's nothing wrong with you being on medication either if you decide that you need it. Some people do not create the correct amount of hormones or chemicals to produce certain things in their brain. It's not something that it is your fault. It's just the way that your body was made. Sad part is we were taught to be down on ourselves. Yes, affirmation is important. Yeah, affirmations is very important. Very, 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 very important. I'm telling you, I'm going to get through this without crying. I'm telling you that right now, because this is very hard for me to speak about. But finding acceptance within myself was the hardest, because I had to fight with my mind, with how I was raised in church. I had to fight in my mind with the way I was raised in a Jamaican home. I had to fight the stigma that even just the black community goes through. I had to fight all of that when I did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. My suffering came from a child. I did nothing wrong. So why am I sitting up here beating up myself over something I didn't do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong. So I had to come to that realization too. And if you're beating yourself up about acceptance, if you're beating yourself up about telling your families, then don't tell them. Seek the help that you need and keep it moving. Seek the help that you need and keep it moving. Why does your family need to know if it's such a big stigma in your family? Thank you, Mike. If it's a big stigma in your family, why do you need to discuss it with your family? Let it be. Listen, if they want to stay stuck in that cycle of brokenness, then let them stay there. But you got to make sure that you take care of you. And you can't, and if you're a person that's always taking care of people, because I find myself doing that, taking care of so many people, that I put my problems on the back burner. No, you need to help yourself. You got to understand that you're worthy enough to get the help. Do not allow people, their opinions, the stigma, all these different types of things to hold you back. That's why you're staying in a broken place. You're staying in a broken place for other people. I want you to realize that you're staying in a broken place for people. How is that ever healthy for you? How is that ever going to help you with anything? Think about it. The second thing that I want to talk about, and this is a part of the acceptance as well, okay? Because there's a lot of things that when it comes to acceptance, it's just not the acceptance of I need help. Sometimes you need to have the acceptance that even if you're going through therapy and you're trying to mend the fences with your family and they decide not to, accept it and move on. It is not your responsibility as an individual for them to fix whatever they don't feel like they need to fix. You need to work on you. Heal whatever situation in that and move on. Let them stay in that broken place. Do not stay there because they don't want to fix it. So if you have somebody who has done something to you as a child, who has even abused you, or or they have a hard time accepting or having a conversation with you about fixing the issue, you are only responsible for what you have done in your own work. You're responsible for you. You're not responsible for anybody else's denial or acceptance. Talk about it. They don't want to deal with it. Fine. Deal with it on your own and move on. Don't sit up there and fight them and then you're fighting for yourself at the same time. You will lose yourself in that process. So make sure that you're not doing that. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you're not doing that. The last stages of acceptance. Please do not, if you know somebody is struggling, you know somebody's having a hard time, and you know that you came to the place that, okay, well, I got my healing, and I understand that, that we need therapy in this family, or you can identify whatever issue that they got going on, and you know that they need help. Do not force them into acceptance. Do not force people into acceptance. Do not tell people that they have to get help. Do not try to force things down their throat. Why? Because you can be making the situation worse. You could be the problem of the reason why they can't get to that place of acceptance. You may be the reason why they are not seeking the help that they have. You have to be okay with other people not accepting the help. If you're not qualified, if you do not have the sensitivity of having a conversation when you know that family members and people are struggling, keep your mouth shut and keep it moving. Either you support them, know your place. Know your place. Know your place. A lot of people they think that, because I got therapy and I got the help and I know what's going on and this is how the way I deal with it. You dealt with it your own way. Let people find their way to deal with their own issue. Let them deal with their issue the way that they want to deal with their issue. Don't force it down somebody's throat. That's not your job. Your job is to either be there, be a support, and be quiet. You might be adding fuel to the fire. Don't push anybody into acceptance. Don't push anybody in acceptance, y'all. So, I want to talk about the 5 stages of grief because I know for me, if Jamaica had this available to me as a child, it would have saved me from a lot of grief. It would have saved me from a lot of mistakes. It would have saved me from going down the wrong roads and making the wrong decisions and bringing in the wrong people into my life, which I still, sometimes struggle with. It would have saved me. So if you have a child, or I have a lot of people who are Jamaican that watch my platform. If you are Jamaican and you know that you need help, get help without your family. Get help without your family, please. Please seek out help. It's okay to get help. I know what it's like to be raised in a religious home. You go to church, you probably try to pray it out, and that depression and anxiety comes with it. It's still coming with you when you leave the church. Get help. It's okay. Make sure that you're paying attention to your kids if they lose a parent. If they lose somebody close to them, pay attention to the way that they're acting. It makes a world of difference. I mean, was I angry for a very long time? That a lot of the things that I suffered from, a lot of the things that I went through could have been avoided if I would have just got the help that I needed. Yeah, absolutely. I was mad. Actually bitter for a very long time. But guess what? It made me into the person that I am today. I wouldn't be who I am right now. I wouldn't be speaking on a platform talking to you. I wouldn't be a creative without my struggles. So yeah, I didn't like it for a very long time. I was bitter, but it took me to where I am right now. And that's talking about it and exposing the thing and try to help other people. So, yeah, I went through it because it was meant for me to go through it to make sure that I help somebody else. Please understand all of your trials, all your tribulations, all of the rain, the hail, the storms that you go through. When you come out on the other side, be looking for the person that you're supposed to help. You don't go through hardship without being able to teach somebody else. Once you get through that storm, you need to be looking around and be like, listen, which one of y'all is dealing with depression? Which one of y'all is dealing with financial hardship? Which one of y'all is doing this? Look for the person that you're supposed to help. Because you don't go through your own personal pain, your own personal testimony, your own personal hardship. You go through it for somebody else. You're supposed to be helping somebody else. Do not get stuck up or stuck within yourself and try to not help somebody because it was too painful for you. Well, you don't know if your selfishness could have prevented death, could have prevented some type of serious bodily harm. You don't know. So be open to helping people once you get done through your trials. But anyway, I want to talk about the 5 stages of grief. And the reason why I want to talk about 5 stages of grief is because it's what I experienced and where actually 98% of my pain stemmed from. And then it just grew into this cancerous thing. And it grew and it grew and it grew. And it's when you're dealing with pain, you're taking on so many different things and you don't even realize that you're taking on so many things. And it started out with something that could have been dealt with in just one move. Now you have this big ball of rubber bands that you gotta untangle. So there is I wanted to tell people about the 5 stages of grief because it's a lot of things that you do go through. And it took me years to get through all these stages. Years. Until late 20s. Years to get through these stages. And I didn't understand that I was still going through these grieving stages without, until I got counseling. So the first stage of grief is shock and denial. Shock and denial is a defense mechanism to protect your mind and to protect your heart from the pain that's going to be coming. So denial and shock is something that everybody experiences when it comes to death. There's some people who, when they hear somebody die, they don't feel anything. They usually have something some underlying issues that's going on outside of that. But shock and denial is just a defense mechanism to protect yourself. The next stage is anger. Now, this is a stage I was in for a very, very long time. Very long time. And anger seems endless. Sometimes when somebody dies in the anger of losing them, the anger of how the way that they died, how the way that, anger that you never really been able to resolve your issue, the anger of just feeling like you lost out on the opportunity. You may be angry at God. You may be angry at people. You may, be angry at everything. Anger is a normal emotion, and that you need to go through it. But you need not to stay there. This is why it's so important to get counseling. So anger is the next stage. Bargaining is the next tool. I didn't have, I actually went through bargaining when I was like 19 years old. My father was gone already, 15 years? And I'm sitting up here bargaining like, if my dad was here, I wouldn't be going through this. Like, imagining what my life would be like, trying to wake up from a bad dream, like thinking like my whole life was fake and that, I was going to wake up and that everything was going to be okay. And, my dad would be there. I was dealing with this at 19, like 15 years after my father died. So crazy. But the bargaining stage is like, you're asking, you're bargaining with God. You're saying, please make this be a bad dream. Please be this. Please be that. Please, please, please. And it's just not a really good space to be in. You really need to make sure that you are doing what you can in that stage to get out that bargaining stages. The next stage is empty feelings, which a lot of people don't even realize. Whenever you get numb, when you have somebody die and you start to feel numb, you don't feel no emotions, or you're crying all the time, darling, you're depressed. That's depression. That's what depression looks like with mourning. Empty feelings, the sense of lost, the sense of confusion, the sense of can't move on, can't get out of bed, can't stop crying. You don't cry. That's a fourth stage of grief. That's depression. You need to call a thing a thing. You're depressed. I was there for a very long time. Many years. Whenever I go through a significant loss, I go through that. Regardless if it's a loss of a job, loss of a friend, loss of of somebody I was dating, loss of anything. I go through that depression stage. And you need to really call a thing a thing. If you find yourself after losing a loved one that you can't get out of bed, you don't want to talk to nobody, you don't want to engage with nobody, you don't want to go out with friends, you just want to be left alone, you're in bed and don't want to get out, because it gets that bad. It can get that bad. Depression can leave you in the bed for years, and you don't even realize that you're in bed for years. And now you end up on My 600-Pound Life. Now, I'm not trying to be funny, but it's a very real thing. You find yourself, you years have passed you by. You done had relationships come and go. Nobody is talking to you anymore. Nobody is communicating with you anymore. You're isolated. Death can really do that to you. And if you do not notice or be able to identify that you are depressed, you might stay there and you might die there. This is a very serious thing, ladies and gentlemen. Very serious. So the last stage of grieving is called acceptance. Now, acceptance is not being okay with the loss of a loved one. You're coming to the acceptance that your new reality is a permanent reality. Not that you're going to accept the pain and move on. You're going to still miss this person. You're going to still feel the ache when you hear their voice. You might drive past their house and it comes back to memories. Or you might pass a picture or something might remind you of the person and the pain still comes. Acceptance is not that. Acceptance is knowing that they're gone. And that it's still okay to feel those feelings of sadness that they're gone. Some people never get over the loss of someone. Never get over the loss of someone. Never. But they have accepted that they're no longer here. That's what accepting is. So for those of you who are insensitive towards people who may be going through the mourning process, they're talking about their family member. And you're just like, oh, you just need to accept it. Who's to say that they didn't accept it? They probably have accepted it, but they want to talk about their family member. Know the difference. Know the difference. They know that they're not there, but they want to talk about them. They want to keep their memory alive. There's nothing wrong with that. So instead of like making that judgment call saying, oh, you're just in denial and you're not accepting that they're gone, make sure that that's actually accurate before you start accusing them of doing that. Okay? People are going to mourn. Some people mourn for the rest of their lives. I mean, losing a child, losing a parent, I would say that losing a child, a parent, a mother may mourn for the rest of her life, but still able to raise her kids. Still able to get her kids through college, still can provide a loving home. But that child that they lost will always be on their minds. Know the difference. Know the difference. You guys, I had to come and talk to y'all about this. This was so hard for me. I had to write this down and figure out like how the way I was going to do this. I repeated some of the things that I said on Scotty by Nature's TV, but it was some audience that wasn't here. Some people who don't know who Scotty is, Scotty by Nature TV. You guys watch him. He does some great panels. And what I have to commend Scotty on this video, because Scotty had lost his uncle. I mean, he took care of his uncle until his dying day. And he knew that mental health is something that the Black community needs. And he, despite burying his father the day before the panel, he still did the panel show. And we still had a conversation. And he sat there and cried. He got off camera and cried, but he knew that the conversation was needed. He knew that the conversation was important, despite the way that he felt, because it was mental health awareness. You know, I was extremely vulnerable on the conversation. I told you guys a lot about myself. One of the reasons why, you know, you may see, oh, she's on here trying to make sure she's helping people. You know, people on TikTok, people on here. I help people because of what I've been through. I'm always going to deal with, I'm reading a comment from Mike P on my YouTube, and he said I'm still dealing with the death. I'm still dealing with the loss of my father. I will deal with it until the day I die, because there's a lot of regret. But it's nothing I can do about it. You know, I've come to the acceptance that despite the fact that I come to the acceptance that I do feel a way about not having my dad. I do feel a way about being a statistic, even though my father died tragically in a car accident. I feel like there was a lot of things that could have happened. But like I said, I wouldn't have the heart that I have. I wouldn't care so deeply about people and helping them on their journeys. I wouldn't be a creative person. It taught me that the one thing I can say about me not talking is that me going on the inside, my imagination ran rampant. And I didn't understand that it was innovation and creativity that was running through my mind as a 4-year-old child. And that it wasn't until I became an adult that I started to let out my creativity by creating my YouTube channel, by creating a TikTok, by creating the Instagram, and developing relationships with people in the industry. I gravitate towards people who are creative. I do. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I gravitate towards them because I can identify with something in them. But you creative and innovators, most of the time you guys deal with a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of things on the outside, because creative people for some reason go through a lot. You need to make sure that you're protecting your energy. Protect your energy by getting help. Protect your energy by knowing when to pull away from people. Protect your energy by making sure that you're taking care of yourself and taking time out for yourself. It's not always about helping people when you need to meet their need, when you are not able to meet your own. How good are you as a person, as an innovator, as a creative person? How good are you to anybody when you're not taking care of yourself? You're going to run out of air. You're going to run out of fuel. And you're going to crash and burn. So take care of yourself. I still seek therapy. When coronavirus happened and I was indoors, I was on that phone. I was using that telehealth like, listen, I kept having a whole bunch of people die around me. Whole lot of people from my childhood. My, personal people who meant a lot to me. Lost loved ones. It was just hard. I picked up the phone and called because I'm just like, all of these different ideas come out through pain for me. So like when I'm going through a hard time, the ideas just flows out of me like a running water. Ideas run out of me anyway. But when I'm going through stress and I'm going through depression, it comes out like it comes out like crazy. And I was just like, I need to sit back and I need to get help. Picked up the phone, was calling my therapist. Something I did say earlier about different types of therapies. It's very important that, a lot of people, they think about like mental health, they think medication. They go straight to mental health like, oh, you're crazy. You go to mental health, it's just like a bad stigma to it. Please understand that you don't need to be on meds. It's not always about medication. I had panic attacks, severe anxiety. It's funny how I can get on front of this camera and talk and go to a room full of people and talk my behind off of all the anxiety that I got. I don't let it stop me though. It's weird. But you know what I did? I went to my therapist. She was like, do you want to be on medicine? And I was just like, no. I think that if I could find my way, find a different way to deal with whatever I'm going through, that I want to do that. I tried medication one time and I didn't like the way I felt. Meaning, and I'm saying this as a disclaimer, if you need medication, take medication. Do not feel bad about being on meds. Do not feel bad for taking meds for depression, schizophrenia, whatever, bipolarism. Do not feel bad for taking medication, period. And don't ever let anybody tell you any different. Don't let anybody tell you any different. But for me, I have a sort of addictive personality. So me and medication don't mix. I have an addictive personality. So I'm just like, no. So I went and I seeked out a breathing specialist. And this breathing specialist taught me how to, when I was having like really bad panic attacks, how to use breathing patterns to calm myself down. There's specialized therapy for mental health that you can go through. Please do not stop and say, okay, if I think that I have some type of issue, that I'm crazy and I got to do this and I got to do that. Do not make assumptions that your doctor is always going to put you on medication. You need to find a doctor who doesn't like putting on people on medication. I went to a psychiatrist that does not like putting their people on meds. The only people he puts on meds is if you need it. And he told me flat out, because I already knew this. When I went and I saw him as because I suffer from insomnia. When you suffer from insomnia, you have to see a psychiatrist. They're no longer allowing you to see regular doctors anymore. So I go to a psychiatrist, and he's like, yeah, so when do you want to get off your medication? Because I don't think that I think that all you really need to do is just get a pattern and stick with it. And I like that kind of doctor, because he's just not looking at me as like a patient and a number and a way to get a bonus for the medications that he writes out. He's just like, yeah, let me see what I can do for you. Let's try this. Let's try that. And then when he told me to go to a breathing specialist, I knew that I was at the right office. I had moved away from where I was, so my other therapists, I couldn't see them anymore. They were too far and outside of my medical insurance at the time. So I was just like, yeah, I'm at the right person, because he's a psychiatrist, and he's like, yeah, like I just think that, like, he was like speaking from a perspective as a medical professional, that you do have depression and anxiety, but it can be handled in so many different ways. You don't need meds. And I was just like, well, thank God. He said, not saying that not everybody comes in my office don't need meds. They absolutely do. But you do not need meds. So, like, one of the panelists said this in the in the panel I did the other night. They said that when it comes to finding a psychiatrist or a doctor, that you may not find the right one the first time. And that may be true. It may take you a few times to find your doctor. It took me a little while. So just don't give up. Don't give up. I hope that me having this conversation with you has really helped you. I know that this story is going to help somebody else. I know that there's a lot going on. I didn't go into depth with my struggles and what I faced because I don't feel like it's necessary at this moment. Maybe another time I will share that because I wanted to keep it as straightforward as possible. Didn't want to be emotional and all over the place. But I want you guys to get help. I want you guys to recognize whenever you're going through something that you have a problem. You have a problem. Now you're always fixing other people's problems. Now fix yourself. Let me tell you something. People with a lot of issues, a lot of mental health issues. I know for myself, I'm a person that I bring a resolve to people. I bring healing to people. I bring something to the table. If you know me and you walk closely with me, you're not going to walk away with nothing. You're going to walk away with some knowledge. You're going to walk away with something tangible. You're going to walk away with something. But I had to learn that I had to protect my energy. And I had to call things out. That's where a lot of people who don't like me, they don't like me for that because I'm not afraid to do that. But you need to make sure that you're protecting your energy to those people who are people pleasers. It took me a very long time to say I was a people pleaser until I start doing things for myself. I really started to take care of myself. I really to look after what I was going to do. And I have great vision. I have ideas. I want to do certain things and I start taking care of them. If you want to be with me, fine. If you don't, then sayonara. That's cool too. But I'm going to make sure that this train keeps going. And the way that this train keeps on going is if I continue to seek the help that I need, and also to make sure that I am not in denial about where I'm at. So if I need help, I need help. If I need to pull away, I need to pull away. That's just the person I am. But I hope this helped y'all. I hope this helped you guys as well. My TikTok family, I'm about to focus on them. Because I really haven't read the comments. I'm going to go through the comments and see what they said. But please, like, if you're having a hard time, please seek mental health treatments. Seek therapy. If you have a child and you notice that they changed after losing a parent, please get them help. If you have children with brain injuries, please make sure that you are seeing therapy for them, because brain injury patients need therapy as well. Okay, if you are somebody who is struggling and don't really understand why you're struggling, why you're in depression, why you're always anxious, seek help for it. Live your life. Live in freedom in knowing that you have a problem and it's okay. There's freedom in seeking therapy. Oh, absolutely it is. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. There's freedom in it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, on YouTube, I've been on here for an hour. I love you guys. Thank you so much for coming to my live video on here. Please make sure that you're seeking help. I'm so sorry about the audio. My phone was dying and I had to plug out my microphone. But hopefully the message came across and you guys get it. I love you guys. Please make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Do not pay attention to the stigma. Do not pay attention to the words of other people. Make sure that you're listening to what your heart is saying. And if your heart is saying, I need help, then seek the help that you need. I'll talk to you later. Ciao.